Good morning. Good morning. That was good. I'm not even going to ask you to repeat it. All right. Welcome to the Unitarian Coastal Fellowship. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that all people have inherent worth and dignity, and we strive to build a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We believe in an interdependent web of all existence of which we are all a part. I am the interim minister here, the Reverend Micah C. Ma, and my pronouns are they, them, and theirs. With me today is Worship Associate Marilyn Cullison, Choir Director Tom Cullison, accompanist Megan Smith. Shout out to, looks like Harriet and Karen are doing tech today. And a special welcome to those joining us on Zoom today. Cameras back there, give them a wave. Welcome, Zoom land. And do we have any visitors in the sanctuary today? Is there anyone who maybe it's your first time here? If you want to stay anonymous, that's also fine. And now, Social Justice Co-Chair Barb Thomas has some announcements for us.
Good morning. Okay. We are searching for our next full-time contract minister, and we want to hear from you. You should have received an email from Miriam Green on Friday with a link to the UCF Ministerial Search Survey. This link was also in Friday's wave. Please take 5 to 10 minutes to provide the search committee with your feedback and ideas for our next full-time contract minister. If you need a paper copy, please ask a search committee member. Miriam Green, if you'll raise your hands as I say your names. Tom Cullison. Sarah, is she here today? Sarah Grenier? No, I didn't think so. Penny Hooper or Amy Jones. Speak to any of them. The survey will close on August 31st. After church this morning, the Social Justice Committee will be having its quarterly meeting in the Sally B. White Center, room 7. All are welcome to attend to see what we're working on or to contribute your ideas and social justice passions. Also, we are participating with people across North Carolina, and this is a hot news item, just happened yesterday or the day before. In a 3-day blitz of continuous phone calls to State Senate President Phil Berger and State House Speaker Tim Moore to call for the enactment of Medicaid expansion. 600,000 people in the state are without health insurance, and we need Medicaid expansion ASAP for them. If you're free at 11 a.m. next Wednesday, the 23rd, we've signed up for that hour between 11 and 12, you would take a 3-minute slot to make some phone calls. There's a script for the calls. If you're interested, contact me or Harriet Altman after the service, and we'll get you more information. We need 20 people to make those phone calls. And now, one more announcement. We're excited to announce the reformation of the UCF Goods and Service Auction Committee. Planning for the auction, which is scheduled for Friday, November 10th, will begin with a meeting this Thursday at 10 a.m. in the Sally White Center. Anyone interested in helping with the auction is invited to attend this meeting or contact Louise and Dave Hughes, raise your hands, for more information. Okay, and now we invite everyone in the sanctuary to please silence their cell phones, and all those on Zoom to please turn off your cameras to conserve bandwidth. Thank you.
And now I invite everyone to please turn and greet your neighbor, say hi to someone you know, or better yet, someone you don't know. Hi, neighbors. Beloveds, we gather today in the spirit of service. We gather today in the spirit of love and charity. And we gather today in the spirit of justice. For when justice prevails on earth, when there is no more poverty, no war, no racism, no sexism, no homophobia, would we have any other name for that world other than heaven? And so we gather today in the hopes that we may receive wisdom on how to create that heaven here on earth, to fulfill the words of that prayer that say, on earth as it is in heaven. Will the people say with me, "Come, let us worship together"? I invite Marilyn now to read our chalice lighting as we light our chalice, the symbol of our shared faith as Unitarian Universalists.
Our chalice lighting words are by Maureen Killeran. In these hard times, let us look first to the response of love. In the midst of challenge, may our chalice flame bear witness to the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. In the midst of uncertainty, may our chalice be a beacon of encouragement, that our values may guide our choices. Let us look first to the response of love.
And we light also a peace candle to remind ourselves that peace is a process that requires work. That peace is not merely an absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. And now I invite all to rise as you're willing or able for our opening hymn, number 108 in the gray hymnal, "My Life Flows On in Endless Song."
My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn, that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What through the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. But through the darkness round me close, in songs and night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? When prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Okay, so before I start telling this story, I want to make it absolutely clear that we can regard this story as a fairy tale. No actual babies were harmed in the making of this story. Some people have been very concerned about the service title, and I want to reassure you, there are no physical babies in a physical river as far as I know. So this story has been attributed to a couple of different people, and I don't think anybody knows who first started telling this story. It's been attributed to both Saul Alinsky and also Irving Zola, who were both community organizers and activists who were active in the middle of the 20th century. So we'll even start it once upon a time so that we can all be clear that this is a fairy tale. Once upon a time, there's this small village next to a river. It's a good place for villages to be, usually. You want to be near a source of water for all your cooking and cleaning and fishing and washing your clothes and what have you. And they're a busy village, they're growing their own food and they're making their own blankets and, their own clothes and stuff. And one day a villager is down by the river and sees a baby just floating down the river towards the village. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, do you see what I see? There's a baby in the river." So she jumps into the river and she rescues this baby, of course, carries it to shore in her arms. And no sooner than she's on shore than there's another villager who, heard her screaming and came to see. And that other villager is going like, "Oh my gosh, there's 2 more babies in the river now." And she turns around and sure enough, now there's 2 babies coming down the river. So now both villagers jump in and they save the babies and they make it to shore. And then a third villager says, "Oh my gosh, now there's 3 babies coming out down the river." So you get the idea. And now there's just this unending stream of babies coming down the river at this village. And, they just keep coming and coming. So this village can't, sit by and do nothing about these babies, right? So they become this baby-saving machine. Like, they set up this sort of Rube Goldberg contraction by the river with, baskets on a zip line so that people can just, stand in the river and just, plunk babies in baskets, and someone else can just sort of crank the baskets to shore with the babies in it. They start an orphanage. There's people round the clock making blankets for the babies, making food for the babies, taking turns to sit up at night, feeding the babies, because, babies, when they're really small, they need, constant care and attention, right? So time goes by, and this village is just, like I said, this baby-saving machine. And they're carrying on, they're carrying on as this baby-saving machine, and these babies are growing up and they're learning how to take care of the other babies that are coming down the river. They're learning how to stir the pots of baby food, and they're learning how to knit blankets. We have some knitters here, right? We have a few knitters here. So, they're making do, right? They're carrying on. And then, one day, at a meeting of the village council, one of the villagers asks, "But where are all these babies coming from? Who's chucking all these babies in the river?" And another villager is like, "Yeah, you're right. Who is chucking all these babies in the river? We should organize a team to go upstream and find out just what the heck is happening up there. How are all these babies ending up in the river?" And, it's the village meeting, right? It's the town hall. So everyone's talking, and some people are saying, "Yeah, we should have done that ages ago. Let's go tomorrow." And some people are saying, "But, every person that leaves is one less person that's here to help us take care of these babies. I mean, if you all go upriver, that's half of our, baby food making crew right there. Who's going to make baby food? Who's going to keep knitting these blankets? Who's going to take their turn on the Rube Goldberg machine that's cranking these babies in their baskets out of the river?" And so the council decides that they're going to let the village decide, that they're going to take it to a vote. So I'm not going to ask y'all to vote here, but y'all can think about, what would your vote be, if you were in this village? Would you send a team upriver? Would any of you volunteer to be on that team that goes upriver? So, just something to think about. A little wondering question for y'all to ponder for the next hour. All right, and as we're all pondering that question, I invite everyone to just take one deep breath together and out. as we move into this next moment in our service, which is every week, we just make a little bit of space and time to experience being human together. And to be human, to experience highs and lows in life. As humans, we laugh, we cry, we sing, we shout, we hurt, we heal. And we share these experiences with one another, not just to lessen our own burdens, because I think I've heard a saying that says something like a burden shared is a burden lifted, but also just because to just share in this spiritual experience of being human together. Because being human is an experience that we all go through. And so we might as well share it with each other and remind each other that none of us goes through the experience of being human alone. And so in a moment, Megan's going to play some beautiful piano music for us. I invite everyone, as they're willing and able, to line up against the far wall over here and come around to the front where we have our basket of shells and stones and sea glass waiting for you. You're welcome to take as many or as few represent whatever is on your heart and leave them in our beautiful glass chalice of water. And if you have a personal joy or concern that you'd like to share with the community, something that's going on in your life that you want other people to know about, we have some slips of paper over there by the basket that you're welcome to fill out and leave in the basket, and I will read it aloud for the congregation to share in. Holly writes, blessings for my sister Kelly. David and Laura share that they will be celebrating their 14th wedding anniversary on Tuesday. Congratulations. Also, our very own Barb Thomas is being recognized as a Woman of Excellence by the League of Women Voters on Thursday. I think everyone here agrees that Barb is truly an excellent woman. Also, finally, school is coming back into session, and so we wish all teachers, school administrators, parents and guardians, and of course students, a safe and happy back to school. I invite everyone now to please join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, Spirit that goes by many names, that pervades the universe, both known and unknown, ourselves, both known and unknown. There is much to celebrate this week: recognition, gratitude. We look back upon our lives, at the good things that have occurred, and we can be grateful for the things that happened to form our characters today. And we look back also upon the sad times, the times that we grieve, and reflect upon how those also made us into the people that we are today, for better or for worse. And so may the happy and grateful times that we experience today, tomorrow, this week, this month, this year, may they stay with us. May they be fires to warm us for the hard times ahead. May we always remember that we are loved, that we are excellent, that we are surrounded by those who love and support us, and that even when times are at their darkest and coldest, that there is a spark of the divine within us. Let us never forget that we are sacred and holy beings. Amen, and blessed be. And now we are going to sing out the young and the young at heart with the blessing song. It's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do, what you know about God is the peace of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what you do, and you don't have to do it alone. It's a blessing I was born, and it matters what I do, what I know about God is the peace of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what I do, and I don't have to do it alone. It's a blessing we were born, and it matters what we do, what we know about God is the peace of the truth. Let the beauty we love be what we do, and we don't have to do it alone. And I invite Marilyn with today's reading.
Our readings this morning begin with That's Why We're Here by Forrest Gilmore. In the first episode of Called the Midwife, a British show about post-World War II midwives, and I haven't watched it, but many of you may have, the main character, Jenny Worth, is just starting as a midwife in the East End of London. She experiences a moment of disgust and overwhelm at witnessing the awful experience of one of her expectant mothers. She apologizes later to the nun she works with by saying, "I'm sorry. I didn't know people lived like this." Sister Julian replies, "But they do, and that's why we're here." This line really moved me. Perhaps the most important thing I've learned from people in poverty is that what they're experiencing is real, no matter what my own personal feelings are about it, whether it's right or wrong, whether it should be or shouldn't be. Their experiences don't go away simply because I don't want those experiences to be there. Their lives are real. And so before anything else, before solutions or judgments or disgust or even overwhelm, is a simple, gentle call to witness cleanly and openly what is real. The only word I have for this is love. To me, this is a tribute to all the people throughout the ages who have witnessed the horrors and the hardships of humanity, and rather than turn away, judge, or fix, simply begin with, "But they do, and that's why we're here." And my readings end with this quote from author Barbara Kingsolver. "The very least you can do in your life is to figure out what you hope for. And the most you can do is live inside that hope. Not admire it from a distance, but live right in it, under its roof."
So does everyone remember that story about the babies that I told earlier? Okay, it was like a whole, 15 minutes ago or something. So I just wanted to check. Oh, so now there's people saying like, well, why don't we go downriver to see what would happen to the, maybe they would just bump up against a bunch of mattresses down there and be fine. Okay. No, we have some very creative people here. So that story, which I shared and which I said was attributed to Saul Alinsky and Irving Zola, who were both community organizers and activists who were active in the 20th century, used it as a way to talk about how people get so caught up in solving the immediate problems that they see around them that we fail to find and address the actual root of the problem. Because this hypothetical fairy tale village had gotten so caught up in just saving all the babies and making sure they were fed and making sure it was clothed, they didn't have the energy or the foresight or whatever you want to call it to go upstream and find out who was chucking these babies in the river in the first place, or to go downstream and see if actually the babies would have been fine if we hadn't done anything. Because that's also a valid interpretation. And, I don't think we can actually blame any of the hypothetical people in this hypothetical village for not going to look for where the babies were coming from right away because they were busy saving the babies, right? And, babies need food, warmth, clothing. As they get bigger, they need teachers, they need mentors, they need guides, and then when the babies become adults, they need somewhere to live, or are they going to go look for, work or life or whatever in a different village, in which case you need to make sure they're prepared, right, for the outside world. So, of course, the village became focused on, raising up all these babies that they were fishing out of the river. And also, if you think about it for, a minute or two, you can think that in a sort of real-world situation, that going upriver to find the source of where these babies are coming from is also kind of a scary prospect. I mean, you don't know how long the team is going to be gone, because you don't know how far upriver you're going to have to go to find the source of whatever's going on there. And you don't know what kind of scary person or people is throwing babies into the river. They seem like not very nice people, maybe. And, so what do you do then when you find what's up there also? If you don't know what's there, right, you don't know how you're going to respond. How are you going to confront whoever or whatever is chucking these babies in the river? So you have to find people who are willing to go on this unknown journey for an unknown length of time, where it's unknown what they're going to find at the end of it, and unknown what they're going to do when they get there. And every person that goes on this journey is one less person to take care of the babies, which at least is like a concrete, known thing, right? And I think it is also eventually going to be necessary to send a team upriver to find what's going on with these babies, because while taking care of the babies is good and necessary and needs to happen, the babies are, important, and they have immediate needs. Okay, hang on. So this is a metaphor. Let's stop talking about babies for a minute, because I feel like the metaphor is getting distracting. This is a metaphor for, let's say, something like feeding the hungry. There's hungry people everywhere. There's hungry people in this county, hungry people in this town, hungry people in this country. And so taking care of babies from the river, we could equate to something like opening or working at a soup kitchen. Are we on board with this new metaphor that we're using, the soup kitchen metaphor? Okay. So something like a soup kitchen, which addresses people's immediate needs. This person is hungry right now, so let's give them some food. This is what we can call charity or service. Then there's going upriver to find out where the babies are coming from. We could say that is addressing the root cause of hunger. Why are these people hungry? Are they hungry because they're homeless? Are they hungry because there's nowhere to buy food near them? Maybe they lack transportation and they can't get to the Dollar General or the grocery store or what have you to buy food. Are they hungry because they don't know how to cook, maybe? They don't know how to prepare meals for themselves. Are they hungry because there's some sort of like disability issue where they're unable to prepare food for themselves? So addressing those problems, one metaphor, no more babies coming down the river. The other metaphor, no more hungry people. And addressing the root causes of these problems, addressing systemic issues, that is what we call justice. So we have charity and service, which is addressing people's immediate needs, and then we have addressing systemic issues to address the root of an issue. Charity and service on the one side, justice on the other side. Now, they're not actually on different sides, because it's all about helping people, right? And now the metaphor is breaking down a little. I mean, not the food metaphor, the baby metaphor. Because, with the babies, we're kind of assuming that there is a single cause of the babies ending up in the river, right? Like there's some horrible cult or something that's tossing babies in there. But there is no single cause for hunger. I mean, the example that I used just now, there's a lot of different reasons why people might be hungry. And that is true for all of the problems in the world. There is no single cause, per se, of homelessness, or gun violence, or suicide, or addiction, or climate change, or any of the many, many things that ail us. These are complex problems with no single solution. Which is why justice requires collective action. Acts of service and acts of charity can be performed by the individual. Any of us as an individual can do charity. An individual can open their wallet, donate money, they can go down to Hope Mission, you can donate clothing, you can pick a family off the angel tree and buy presents for them, which are all good and necessary things to do, and they are not creating justice in the world. Because justice is equal rights for all. Justice is safe working conditions for laborers. Justice is working against climate change, which we know disproportionately affects the poor and the people of color. An individual can't do any of these things. One person is not going to solve climate change. These things require collective action. These things require a lot of people working together. Because one person who attends a school board meeting to protest censorship of books about Black history can be written off as a solitary kook. But 20 people who show up to a school board meeting to protest censorship is a different story. Now, I am not knocking charity here. I am someone who has been the very grateful recipient of the generosity, the charity, and service of others. I'm a big fan of charity, and I want a world where we have justice. I want to be out of a job, in some sense, you know? Like, I want a world where we don't need charity, or we need much less charity. Like, we only need charity to deal with, like, acts of God kind of situations, right? Like, natural disasters, things like that. And the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, our denominational body, has been headed in the direction of justice for the last few years, really trying to focus on systemic change and collective action. So our Side with Love campaign, which is our national movement campaign, champions issues such as climate resilience, building communities that are resilient against the disasters brought by climate change, because at this point we know that disasters are coming and we need to be prepared for them, and helping communities be resilient against them. And UU the Vote, has anyone heard of UU the Vote before? And maybe some of you have participated in UU the Vote, is also part of Side with Love. Fighting for fair elections, advancing voting rights, resisting the targeting of women and people of color. And the grants that the UUA gives out through the Unitarian Universalist Funding Program also similarly focuses on collective organizing and community alliances. And they specifically give examples that they fund projects that bring about systemic change. So rather than giving money to open a homeless shelter, they'd rather, say, fund a campaign to raise the minimum wage so that people can actually afford to pay rent and not become homeless in the first place. Rather than giving an individual scholarship to a needy student, the Unitarian Universalist Funding Program would rather fund a student association that's working to lower the cost of higher education so that more people can go to college without accruing, quite frankly, really ridiculous and unsustainable amounts of debt. Again, I am not knocking charity. Nobody at the UUA is knocking charity. It's why we do Share the Plate here, because we know that charity is important. It's why we participate in Operation Christmas Cheer, buying presents for families off of the angel tree. It's why we have a minister's discretionary fund here. Using that minister's discretionary fund, I've gotten to people a night at the Econo Lodge when it's been freezing out. I've helped people pay their electricity bills. Just last week, I gave someone a couple of Walmart gift cards so that they could go to Walmart and get their cell phone turned back on. Because you know what? It's really hard to get a job if you don't have a working phone. So I'm not going to tell these people oh no, sorry, I can't help you because we only work on justice issues here and we only work to bring about systemic change. I'm not going to do that. Of course I'm going to help people who need help right now. Because this isn't an either or. Nothing is ever an either or. It's a both and the question is how to balance it. How many people are you going to send upriver to look for the source of the problem? Well, how many people can you spare? Is there a way to make sure that everything gets covered while the other folks are gone? How are we going to prepare them for the journey? So this comes down to, what is the Unitarian Coastal Fellowship going to do? We all know that there's a lot of charity that needs doing around here, and there's a lot of justice that needs doing too. I hear that they could use us at Board of Election meetings and also on election days to help keep elections free and fair and safe. I can't believe we're living in a time where it might not be safe to vote, but that seems to be happening. I hear they could also use us at school board meetings advocating for free school meals for all students. That program was expanded during COVID, and now that expansion has expired, and so some students have lost their free lunch. But some states and some counties, some municipalities are choosing to just keep and maintain that program. The entire state of Pennsylvania is going to start giving kids free breakfast. Every single child in Pennsylvania will receive a free breakfast. We could be next if we wanted to bother the school board about it. Just bother them. And there's Medicaid expansion, which was mentioned earlier during the announcement. So the deal here is that the state legislature has passed Medicaid expansion. They just haven't implemented it yet because they passed it in such a way that it's tied to the budget being passed. And guess what we don't have yet? A budget. That is correct. A budget has not been passed yet. And if we don't pass a budget, when I say we, I mean our legislators, but that's us, right? They represent us, supposedly. And so if they don't pass a budget by September 1st, then Medicaid expansion will not go into effect until maybe December at the earliest. And in the meantime, there are 600,000 people without health insurance in North Carolina. That's a lot of people who could be having urgent medical problems or who could be unable to pay for their medication and rationing their insulin. That's not great. That's not just. And so that's why. So on Wednesday, we're joining with other organizations like all over the state. So it's other UU churches, it's nonprofits, and doing this sort of it's not 24-hour because it's only during their business hours, but for 3 days straight during business hours, their phones are going to be ringing off the hook because we're going to be calling them and reading the script saying like, hey, let's get the Medicaid expansion thing on the road. So I'm going to sign up. I'm going to be making my call from here. If anybody wants to come, hang out, make our calls together. I always have snacks. You're welcome to join me. My office hours are every Wednesday from 9 to noon also. You can come just hang out anytime. Justice work can be fun, y'all. Just want to make sure you know that. But I never like to talk about justice and things on a Sunday morning without telling you why this matters to us as Unitarian Universalists. And I will tell you that it matters because of love. Love is at the center of everything that we do. I look up at those signal flags in the social hall. If you haven't looked at the signal flags, they finally got put up over the summer, and they talk about love over and over and over again. And so justice and charity and service, all of these things are part of loving the world. Because, when you love someone, you care about the things that they care about. Right? You personally might not, love Dungeons and Dragons, but if your kid really loves Dungeons and Dragons, you might listen to them talk about Dungeons and Dragons because it's important to them. And because you love someone and you don't want to see them suffer, you want to help them, right? And, that help can take lots of different forms. Sometimes that help is making a donation. Sometimes that help is going over to their house to fix their broken air conditioner. Sometimes that help is making a phone call to secure Medicaid expansion. Sometimes that love is reading something during worship, helping make worship happen so that other people who are doing the work can have a moment of respite, can have a moment of rest and spiritual, nourishment so that they can go back out and do the work that needs to be done, right? Lots of different ways that love and help and compassion can show up in the world. And so charity is one of the ways that love shows up in the world. Service is one of the ways that love shows up in the world. And justice is one of the ways that love shows up in the world. And as theologian Cornel West said, justice is what love looks like in public. May it be so. I invite everyone to remain seated for our next hymn, number 1014, Answering the Call of Love.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love, and joined together as hearts beat one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together and hearts beat as one. When burning by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the Son of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide, reflected by grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Now is the time for our offertory, and I invite Amy Jones up to tell us about the amazing work that Carteret Long-Term Recovery Alliance does. Amy, besides being a member of this congregation and on the search committee, is also the case manager for CLTRA. And if you were at one of our services I led earlier this year, Amy gave us a slideshow and talked about what she does as a case manager. Amy.
So last month we started Share the Plate, a practice where all undesignated funds in our collection plate for the month are split between UCF and an organization chosen by the Social Justice Committee. For the month of August, we are collecting for Carteret Long-Term Recovery Alliance, also known as CLTRA. They like to make that a tongue twister for me. So we live in a community that we know has so much natural beauty. Our community is a great place to live, to raise a family, to retire in, and we're also a popular destination spot for vacationers. While we're surrounded by all of this natural beauty, this does not define and measure the greatness of our community. As noted by the late Coretta Scott King, quote, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members," end quote. Carteret Long-Term Recovery Alliance, also known as CLTRA, is an example that demonstrates the compassionate actions of our community members. Many of us recall the events of September 13th through 15th, 2018, when Hurricane Florence produced extensive wind and flood damage to our community. The historic amount of rain and storm surge produced catastrophic flooding and devastated the lives and homes of so many in our community, including and disproportionately some of our county's most vulnerable community members. Many people in our community mark their lives as before Florence and after Florence. In response to this devastating storm, residents of Carteret County formed CLTRA. We are totally nonprofit, totally volunteer-led, and we're a long-term recovery alliance, meaning we are committed to remain an active presence in our community until the last home is completed, and that we will be here should another disaster impact our community. It is because of this long-term commitment to our community and CLTRA's intentional efforts to identify and work with our county's most vulnerable community members that I volunteer as a disaster case manager. To date, almost 5 years after the hurricane, over 400 families have been helped by CLTRA, yet over 150 still remain. Much of this work is extensive, it's slow, and it's tedious. An example is a couple in their 80s who were displaced from their home for over 2 years. Getting their home back to a safe and secure state required over 100 volunteers, 2,200 volunteer hours, and partnerships across 23 organizations and businesses. The partnerships that we are developing and strengthening across our community will create a stronger and more resilient community. We are better prepared to respond and recover for future disasters, and we are better positioned to implement mitigation strategies that will decrease our long-term vulnerabilities. This is the part of Hurricane Florence's story that we hope will be this storm's legacy. CLTRA is thankful to UCF for being a steadfast partner. You all have provided much-needed financial support as well as community awareness for our relatively new organization. So back to the quote by the late Coretta Scott King. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Thank you, UCF, for your compassionate actions, for your love across so many areas of our community, and also for sharing this month's plate with CLTRA. Please know that your donations to CLTRA go directly to helping our neighbors rebuild and recover, every penny. And you're doing more than helping repair homes. You're helping rebuild lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And as we prepare to receive today's offering, I invite the ushers up. And the gifts that we receive are used for Carteret long-term reliance and recovery, as well as to make the lights come on and pay our staff, and we thank you.
Will you please join me in blessing this offering with hymn number 402, From You I Receive? We'll sing it twice through. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Thank you. Now Marilyn will read our chalice extinguishing words.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen that's behind me as we extinguish our flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And in Spanish, extinguimos esta llama de verdad, el calor de comunidad, o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevamos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez.
Oh no, they've got the drum. What's going to happen? Right, so our next song, this one is an old civil rights favorite. This one gives me a lot of nostalgia as someone who used to go to a lot of protests and was tear gassed once. Can we have the... No, let's have the English song first, actually. So some of you guys might know this song because Pete Seeger sang it. If you're of the age that enjoyed Pete Seeger, once upon a time. Yes? someone in this room once was Pete Seeger's captain on the boat. Okay, so this is like sort of the basic structure of the song. It goes like this: we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. All right, don't get the hang of that really fast. Okay, now in Spanish, though, we're also going to sing it in Spanish because this song was also sung by farm workers, when they were working for rights, for fair wages, for rest, etc. in California, and they sang it in Spanish, of course. This song has also been translated into Swedish, but I decided we were going to take it one thing at a time. So we're in English or Spanish today. Also, my Spanish is not that great, but I assure you my Swedish is even worse. So we're going to have to work up to that one. So, how many people here are comfortable speaking Spanish? Okay, I see a few hands. So we're going to come on. You're not going to use your Spanish classes? No, not comfortable. Okay. Okay, so, some people are more comfortable speaking Swedish. All right, we'll get you to see the Swedish version for us sometime. So, we're just going to try speaking it first, and then we're going to try singing it, and then we're going to, just sing it. Okay? So, speaking it first. No, smoke it on. No, smoke it on. Como un árbol firme junto al río. No, smoke it on. Okay? Now, when we actually sing it, you're probably going to have trouble. I had trouble. I still sometimes have trouble with the como un árbol line because it seems to be too many syllables to fit the music. And that's because, just like when you sing in English, when you sing in Spanish, you also kind of slur some words together. So it kind of goes like, como un árbol firme junto al río. Okay. You'll get the hang of it when we sing it a few times. I have faith in you. All right. No, smoke it on. No, smoke it on. Como un árbol firme junto al río. No, smoke it on. One more time. No, smoke it on. No, smoke it on. Como un árbol firme junto al río. No, smoke it on. One more time, and then we'll get it. No, smoke it on. No, smoke it on. Como un árbol firme junto al río. No, smoke it on. All right, that was sounding pretty good. Also, in case you're wondering, Joan Baez has a version in Spanish that's really beautiful, actually. So you can look that one up on YouTube if you want to practice on your own. All right, let's have English again. All right, so we're just going to get started now, and I will let you know what we are going to sing next. Okay? You'll trust me? Yes. All right. That's a lot of responsibility. Okay. We shall. Sorry, hang on. I forgot to tell everybody to stand up. Y'all can stand up now if you want. You don't have to, but you're able and willing. Okay. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Black and white together now. Black and white together, we shall not be moved. Black and white together, we shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our future. Fighting for our future, we shall not be moved. Fighting for our future, we shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our freedom. Fighting for our freedom, we shall not be moved. Fighting for our freedom, we shall not be moved, just like a tree everybody, I invite everyone to hold hands if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you can just kind of wiggle into the center of the amoeba and just make it clear you don't want to hold hands. That's fine, you can just be held. All right, everybody. Are we all together? All right, everybody. In this world, let's just try to do a little bit of justice, however we can. Just a little bit. And then the next generation will do a little bit more, and a little bit more after that. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
So where did the babies come from?
We don't know.
One of life's mysteries.
Life's mysteries.